problem statement Ignis Nova Robotics or AgriFortel is taking forward to? So the problem statement is challenges of the farmer, and I need not tell you what are the challenges a farmer faces, because we are all basically farmers, all of us. If I am not having a farm, my father may be having a farm, or my grandfather may be having. We know all the challenges, whether it is rainfall, whether it is weather, whether it is prices, whether it is the local traders, whether it is fertilizers, many challenges. And we know that there is a lot of uncertainty involved here, right from rainfall to price fluctuations. So what is desired always from the farmer's perspective is he should get the right price at the right time. And the present scenario is he'll be selling his yield to the local trader. Then the corporates will be buying from the big trader who will be buying from the local trader. And in a way, they have a control on the prices. They can up them or down them and so on. So in conclusion, everything related to farming is uncertain. And to this uncertainty, analytics could help bring some certainty. What we are trying to pitch here is let us try to build an ecosystem wherein the entire digitized ecosystem will be developed. It will help the farmer directly to sell his yield to the corporates and thereby increase his profits, and there are many other aspects. Now, as I told, there are two names to our company. One name is Ignis Nova Robotics and the other name is AgriFortel. So this is more related to Indian psyche. That's why we put this. So what AgriFortel suit is saying, what this company or what this app or whatever they are building, whatever ecosystem they are building, what they say, so basically they are collecting data, and for collecting data, they are using satellites, drones, and field visits. They'll be doing a lot of trend analysis on the ground. So they'll be doing a lot of crop health monitoring, crop performance, accurate harvesting, yield prediction, yield statistics. That's what few of the claims of AgriFortel are. Now, AgriFortel also says we are doing precision agriculture, the entire digitized ecosystem wherein all the inputs related to pesticides, related to irrigation, related to rainfall, related to weather, related to forecasting of disease. Is it not? This is one very important problem a farmer faces. There is no lead time for the farmer to solve this disease problem. Whenever a plant in a field gets diseased, by the time the farmer knows that it is diseased, the crop damage will be more than 35 to 40%. So what AgriFortel is claiming is that this suit will at least give a lead time of 7 days. That is, before 7 days, you'll be going to know which plant in your field is going to do get diseased. So basically, it is going to do prediction of disease, prediction of weather. It will be using satellite data. It will be using paid data, free data. So, or it is also using something called as hyperspectral cameras, which are very costly cameras. Basic camera also come up to 20 lakhs, they say, and we purchased it. So that will help the farmer prepare to take prior measures. So how AgriFortel has come to this level. Now it is a 15 crore worth company. At least 500 or more research papers they have scanned, at least 2,000 acres of farm field visits, lot of pitching to the regulatory agencies, lot of pitching to companies like Marico, companies like coffee and tea farms. They purchase drones, they have high precision cameras, they're using satellite data, they're using machine learning, combination of artificial neural network statistics. They are using paid satellite data sources, free satellite data sources, and they have explored the resolution from 5 centimeters to 500 meters. But presently, we are restricting ourselves up to max 20, but to be ideal up to 15. Now, what are the technologies, softwares AgriFortel is using is a lot of AI, big data, remote sensing, TensorFlow, big data frameworks. data visualization softwares, Python programming language, hardware, drones, custom cameras, sensors, high-end GPUs for training of algorithms. So this is what AgriPortal or Ignis Nova does. So as an academician, I am a mentor there. So I always pitch for whatever you're doing, let us share this to our community, to our students. But they say, sir, this is all confidential. Don't ever utter a word, whatever we are doing, what coding we are doing, how much error percentage we are targeting at, what kind of camera we bought, so that's it. Basically, they have put a big, huge confidential word for me. So, but still I want to share. So what I am trying to do is I'm trying to surround this with few of the case studies which may in a way relate to few of the activities AgriPortal is doing, or it is a kind of a hint to the way things can be done. So basically, I am trying to take few case studies if time permits. I have a hard stop at 3:30. I have a hard stop of 3:30. So sometimes I may rush a lot. So bear with me for that, because I want to give equal justice to all the three case studies. So the first case study is rainfall prediction. So we know that rainfall prediction will help in water resource planning and natural hazards planning, for handling ourselves with the weather, and all the farming related activities can be. So how I'm going to tackle this is I'm going to just refer a paper, research paper. Then few of the machine learning algorithm concepts I'll be dealing, and I'll be sharing with you few Weka snapshots. We pretty well know what is a Weka. Weka is a library. Weka is an open source library. Weka is an open source library for executing all the data mining algorithms, SVR, artificial neural networks, genetic algorithms, hopefully. So Weka does a lot, is it not? So then I try to take a case study of an evolutionary algorithm, which will be focusing on how genetic algorithm is used to do clustering kind of thing. Hopefully, all of us are students or teachers. We all know data mining as a subject, and we know at least some mathematics and statistics, and we know at least the meaning of these words. What is the discrete data? What is a continuous data? What is a categorical data? Is it not? Categorical data means, are you liking the session? Yes or no? So that is, are you male or female? Is it not? Yes or no? So similarly, continuous variable, it will be in a range. So maybe 0 to 100, 1 to 1000. Discrete means some number, is it not? So this is the first case study related to rainfall prediction. So this case study, I am referring a paper, a research paper, and that research paper had used a combined model of SVR and ANN. Also, it uses ensemble EMD. You all know at least, we all know at least the long forms, and we can connect with this term, is it not? For example, SVR is derived from SVM. And what is SVM? SVM is support vector machine. So, and what is SVR then? SVR is support vector regression. And what SVR does? SVR is a classification problem solving in machine learning. Okay. So basically what SVM does is it does class separation. So it finds a line, it finds a hyperplane that separates the classes. Okay. Basically SVR finds a function that approximates mapping using training samples. It uses decision boundary concept. So we all know these basic things. If not, at least we know the long form SVR, support vector regression, SVM, support vector machine, and we know this is machine learning algorithm kind of thing. And classification, it is used to, it helps in classifying, classification. So again, ANN, so many of our teaching community has research areas as ANN, which is artificial neural network. And in that also they know that BP ANN, which is back propagation artificial neural network, which is a multi-layer forward network that is trained by back propagation algorithms. And usually ANN works how? You have two phases. The first phase is the data goes from input to the hidden layer, and from the hidden layer to the output layer, and from the output layer error is carried backward, and at the hidden layer you have weights and biases and goes to input and backward and forward. This way the prediction happens in ANN. So this rainfall prediction is a problem statement, is it not? We want to predict exactly a rainfall, when the rainfall will happen. So what is the definition of prediction? We remember we have past data and we are going to predict the future. So what we want to predict the future, in future when rainfall is going to happen. What we have the past data. Past data means we may be having data sets of rainfall of last 10 years, last 20 years, last 3 months, last 6 months, and so on. So usually in the research papers, what we see or what we come across is the conventional rainfall prediction techniques use numerical prediction models or Bayesian models. Recent rainfall prediction techniques use machine learning algorithm a lot. GA, that is genetic algorithms, SA, simulated annealing, CPSO, chaotic particle swarm optimization. These are few of the things. Now, the paper which I referred today for today's discussion has this model. It has a model which combines SVR and ANN, and this also uses something called as EEMD. What is EEMD? EEMD is ensemble EMD. EEMD is ensemble EMD. And what is EMD then? EMD is empirical mode decomposition. Empirical mode decomposition. Okay, so let us try to go further. So any one or two representatives may in between ping if there is some problem in audio, video, or whatever. Do ping me. So this is what is the core of the entire model, and I'll try to relate with that. Just take a minute to connect with that. Just look at the diagram, all of you, please just look at the diagram for a minute and try to grab few of the things there. Okay, so I'll try to connect with this. What is the problem? The problem is we want to predict. What we want to predict? We want to predict when rainfall is going to happen. So what is available to us? Past data is available to us. Means rainfall data sets are available to us. So rainfall data is in the form of time series. This is the rainfall data. This is the rainfall data. It is time series data. And what is the feature of time series data? They are non-stationary, non-linear data. Rainfall data is a time series data, which is a non-linear and non-stationary data, is it not? So this data is given to a model called as EEMD. And what is the long form of EEMD? Ensemble EMD. And what is the long form of EMD? EMD stands for empirical mode decomposition. Empirical mode decomposition. So what is the purpose of this empirical mode decomposition is it will be generating IMFs. It will be generating IMFs. So what EEMD does? It takes rainfall data. It takes rainfall data. And what output it gives? It converts that rainfall data into IMFs. What is the long form of IMFs? Intrinsic mode functions. What is the long form of IMFs? The long form is intrinsic mode functions. So here you have IMF1, IMF2, IMF3, IMF4, and so on, right? So they are having different fixed frequencies or period. They are having different modes of oscillations, or in simple terms we can say that every IMF may be unique. Every IMF may be unique. So, but at the end, there is, after IMF also, you are seeing something called as RN here. What you can understand is, this is RN stands for, it's a residue. It's a residue. For faculty, it's not a problem. But if some student who is in second year, if he is unable to connect with this, just take this as a bigger thing. You are dividing this bigger thing into smaller things, and all the after all the smaller things, something remains. So whatever it remains is, that is the residue. Whatever it remains is, that is the residue. Now what is to be done now? What is to be done is, rainfall is to be predicted. What is to be done is, rainfall is to be predicted. And for predicting the rainfall, before predicting the rainfall, this happens. Before predicting the rainfall, this happens. So what happens here? The IMFs are facing the PACF. IMFs are facing the PACFs. I'll come out with the long form of PACF. PACF stands for partial auto correlation function. I'll repeat once again. PACF stands for partial auto correlation function. What is the meaning of this? What it does, basically, before predicting rainfall, the IMFs are to be pre-chosen. The IMF are to be pre-chosen. Again, for my young students, what is happening is, large data, more data, divide into parts, some residue. Also, when you divide into parts, among them you are going to take some special parts which are good for the output. So that job is done by PACF. So what PACF does? PACF finds the correlation of the data. PACF finds the correlation of the data with its lag value, lagged value. For students, again, what is the meaning of a lagged value? Suppose you are standing and you are running and somebody is behind you. Okay, you are ahead. So who is lagging behind? 3-4 of your friends are lagging behind you. So that is what is the meaning of lagging here. Suppose my data is 5. What is lagging behind? So 1, 2, 3, 4 is the lagging behind data. So this PACF, partial auto correlation function, will be finding the correlation between the data with its lagged value, What is the objective of this? The objective of this is, they have to pre-choose the IMF. Which IMF they have to pre-choose? Maximum continuous IMF data, outside the confidence interval, Okay. So partial autocorrelation function is derived from autocorrelation function, is it not? So what is the difference between these two? Partial, will come to that at a later stage if we require it. Okay. So hopefully you are understanding it, understanding the diagram. We have taken the rainfall data, divided them into IMFs. Then we have found out the autocorrelation function. Why? We want to choose the best IMFs. And the definition of the best IMFs, we just try to give it. Then they have done the standardization. Standardization means normalization. Normalization means, in data mining, we have various normalization technique. Again, for if somebody does not understand, suppose I give you, I say that ये inches में है, then you say अरे उसको centimeter में करना. Yeah, you have graph paper, you draw your graph. So what is the graph? It's a normalization of whatever you want to represent, which is of 1000 meters or 100 meters, is it not? This is for students, not for my faculty. They know everything. So again to this diagram. So first, ensemble EMD, empirical mode decomposition, divides this into IMFs. Then PACF find the best IMF. Then standardization happens. Then they are given, what are given? The data. Which data? Rainfall data. To which it is given? To the models. Which models? SVR model and ANN model. What is SVR model? Support vector regression. What is ANN model? Artificial neural network. So these pieces of data after standardization are given to the model, and they will be predicting them individually. And after that, a summarization of all of that data is given, and the final prediction of the data is rainfall data is given. So here Why we are using
Yeah.
SVR and ANN? Why we are not only just using SVR, or why we are not just using ANN? The reason being, what the paper has derived after literature survey is SVR is suitable for short period time series data, and ANN is suited for long period rainfall data. So it's a combination of SVR and ANN. It's a combination of SVR and ANN. Hopefully I could justify the explanation of the diagram. Let us go to this EMD algorithm. Do you remember the long form of EMD? So just let us repeat this. EMD stands for empirical mode decomposition algorithm. EMD stands for empirical mode decomposition algorithm. In this paper, what they have used? They have used ensemble EMD. One more E is added. One more E is added. Ensemble means combining many EMDs. Ensemble means combining many EMDs. So let us try to understand one EMD algorithm. But let us not forget what is the purpose of EMD. What is the purpose of EMD? What is the output? The output is IMFs. Output is IMF. What is the long form of IMF? Intrinsic mode function. Intrinsic mode function. So let us look at the inner loop. Let us look at the inner loop. The inner loop will have a stopping criteria 1. Inner loop will have a stopping criteria 1 to generate a single IMF. So from here, if it is yes, what is happening is one IMF is generated. Then this repetition is, so there is one more outer loop. What is the outer loop? The outer loop is stop. It will stop the entire EMD algorithm whenever the residue becomes monotonic function. The R stands here for what? Residue. R stands for what? Residue. So residue becomes a monotonic function. What is the meaning of monotonic function? The meaning of monotonic function is this residue cannot be further created into IMFs. Matlab, there is no possibility of this from this residue we can create more IMFs. We can create more IMFs. So this is your EMD algorithm. If you look at the inner loop, what is the criteria here? The criteria here is extremas are to be calculated and the envelope is to be calculated. Extremas and envelopes are to be calculated. What is this XT? XT is our rainfall data. So it is assigned to a variable what? To hk of t, to a function called as hk of t. So hopefully I could connect with this EMD. Now, but what it is using, what our paper is using? Our paper is using ensemble EMD. Our paper is using ensemble EMD. So what is the difference between EMD and ensemble EMD is multiple EMDs. But for every input data, we are adding a white noise. For every input data, we are adding a white noise. And for each time, different white noise is added. Each time, different white noise is added. Just take 30 seconds to refer this. Okay. Coming to our next diagram here. This is again, I'll just tell that this is BPANN, artificial neural network, BAP propagation. Given the flow, the data goes from input layer to the hidden layer, from hidden layer to the output layer. And from the output layer goes back, while going back, it takes the error, then weights and biases are adjusted. This is what is your BPANN. This is my SVR algorithm. What is the long form of SVR? Support vector regression. It is derived from what? Support vector machine. So you have this combined model of SVR and ANN. You have this combined model of SVR and ANN. I'll just go through few of the components which I think you can easily relate with. Okay, IMF. IMF are intrinsic mode functions. Who will be giving the output of IMF? EEMD. Okay, so to EEMD, what is provided? Rainfall data. Plus what is provided? White noise. And how many times it will be repeated? Till the residue cannot be further divided into new IMFs. Okay, so what is PACF? IMFs are facing the PACF. PACF is partial auto code correlation function. What they do? They pick the best IMFs. After that, what happens? Normalization. After that, what happens? Normalization. Then SVR. What is the purpose of SVR? Classification. What is the purpose of SVR? Classification. And what is SVR? It is a machine learning algorithm. What machine learning algorithm? It is a prediction algorithm. So what are the steps in prediction algorithm? There will be something called as training, then there will be something called as testing, then there will be something called as predicting. So that's why here you are saying this training and predicting, is it not? Similarly, you have your artificial neural network, which also again can be called as a prediction algorithm, machine learning algorithm, data mining algorithm, kind of, and it also has this training model and the prediction model. So ultimately, summation of SVR and ANN in combined will be given as the prediction of the rainfall data. In combined will be given as the prediction of the rainfall data. So this, in a gist, is how your rainfall can be predicted. This is one way of prediction. There will be 1,000 ways of prediction. So similarly, you can relate that with can I predict how much rice will be yield this year in my field, kind of thing. Okay, so that was my case study 1. Coming to case study 2, few concept of machine learning and just some introductory part of Veka. So give me a minute. As you see on the slide here, machine learning, it is saying it is of 3 types: supervised learning, unsupervised learning, and reinforced learning. Okay, coming to supervised learning, what word is coming here? Supervisor. And supervisor means what? Guide. Guide means what? Teacher. So in supervised learning machine learning algorithm, there is a teacher, there is a guide, and there is a prediction. So our guide, our teacher will be our class variable. Our guide or our teacher will be our class variable. So now supervised learning algorithm can do prediction. So it can predict. So for prediction, it may predict a number or it may predict a string. So for example, how much percentage I may get. Suppose you have a prediction algorithm and you give all your numbers of your past, and in the coming semester, how much marks I may get. Maybe this can be a prediction wrong. Just for students' sake, I am giving. This is not. This is a very simplistic problem. So what I'm trying to convey here is, if your output is some number, 75%, 80%, 100%, then you'll be using regression algorithms. When the prediction output is a number, then you'll be using a regression algorithm. When the prediction output is a string, you will be using a classification algorithm. Generally, what is given as input? Data has to be given. Data will be flat file data, which is a 2-dimensional data, which has rows and columns. Rows are called as the instances. You can have Excel files, comma separated files as one example of input data. Okay, this is repeated, I think. Just give me a minute. I try to open Veka tool. If it is not opening, then I'll make use of those screenshots which are there. I'll use mix of that as per my convenience. Everybody knows Weka. I'm trying to open Weka here, is it not? Everybody knows what is Weka. Okay, Weka is a tool. Weka is a library, and this library consists of machine learning algorithms. This library consists of machine learning algorithms, is it not? And what we know about Weka, we know that the files in Weka have an extension called as .arff. We can open comma separated files. So if you have your Excel data, are you able to see this? This is Waikato. This is Waikato. This animal is Waikato, which is a very famous New Zealand animal, which is a very famous, as you can see, this is, it seems it is a New Zealand product, is it not? The University of Waikato, Hamilton, New Zealand. So we are trying to open this Weka tool. Okay, hopefully at least it has opened. Are you able to see it?
Yes, sir, it is visible, sir.
Okay, great. So for my students, again, this is a Weka tool. This is a tool which is used for executing data mining algorithms. Many of your teachers might have given you practicals and they might have explained you the practicals of this. So as I have a hard stop at 3:30, so I want to wind up at 3:20. So I'll juggle in between as much as I'll try to take as an introductory part. So this is the GUI, and you see here Explorer, Experimenter, Knowledge Flow, Workbench, Simple CLI, is it not? So this is a command line interface. So these are the metaphors. These are called as what? These are the metaphors. Explorer, whatever you can do in Explorer, you can also do in Knowledge Flow. Whatever you can do in Knowledge Flow, you can also do in Workbench. You can also do in Workbench. So what we can do in Explorer, we can execute all the machine learning algorithms. We can execute all the data mining algorithms. Just there was a case study now, rainfall prediction. Can I execute SVR? Can I execute ANN? Can I execute EMD? Yes, I can execute along with whatever you learned in data mining, is it not? So these are the metaphors. Okay, I'll try to open this Explorer. Okay, some screen has come. When I pressed on Explorer, some screen has come. There is a pre-process, classify, cluster, associate, select attribute, visualize. Few things we are able to see. Just take a few seconds to look at this screen. When I clicked on Weka Explorer, what I am able to see. Okay, rest everything is, how I say it, it is not enabled. These are all disabled, and this is only enabled. This is only enabled. I'll just try to play with whatever is enabled, is it not? I'll try to play with pre-process. Okay, nothing has happened as of now. Okay, I'll try to play with choose. Okay, fantastic. Now when I click that, there is something called as filters has come. Now we all know what is the meaning of pre-processing in data mining. What is the meaning of pre-processing in data mining? So we may be having some data, and that data may be having some problems. What kind of problems? There may be few missing values, there may be some erroneous values, there may be some redundancy, there may be some errors. Basically, some data is given to you, and whenever data is given to you, the first thing you are going to do is, you here in the sense the tool, you here in the sense the tool, the first thing you are going to do is you are going to pre-process that data. So pre-processing the data in Weka is called as filtering. So there are various filters. When I say filter, what I am saying actually pre-processing. Where I am saying filters in Weka, pre-processing is called as filters. In Weka, pre-processing is called as filters. Please forgive my tone because I am assuming that there is a mix of the audience, more students and less faculty. If there are more faculty, I can be like, sorry for this. This is my Weka tool. This is my pre-processing. These are the various filters. I try to click on this supervised filter, and in the supervised filter, what I'm seeing is there is a instance filter, there is an attribute filter. Is it not? So I try to click on this resample. Okay, what it is saying, it is giving the explanation of what that is. Okay, now we'll open a folder. We'll try to open a drive. I am going to C drive. In C drive, I am going to program files. In program files, I am going to Weka 3.8.4. In here, I'll be waiting. Okay. Okay, somebody who already know Weka, not an issue, but somebody who want to start, they can always make use of this Weka manual. It is available here when you download and when you install your Weka 3.8.04. So it is available here in my machine as in C direct in C program files Weka 3.8.4, and you can have always open this Weka manual. Then what I am seeing here, Weka examples are there. Then you can also see Weka source code. Weka source code is a Java source code. Students can always explore this, look at the contents of the source code and try to play with it because it is open source. Then I try to go to data. Okay, what is visible? Here I am seeing that bird or that animal. What is that animal? Waikato. But what exactly is this? These are the data. These are what? These are the data. These are the data means these are the data sets. These are the data sets. For example, I am interested in agriculture because my company does that. So there is something called a soybean. Okay. If I have my own data also, I can use my own data. Not an issue. It is not like you should only use this only. Somebody may be interested in a project on supermarket. But most of the teachers, faculty who do research, they always use this IRIS. IRIS data set is the most famous data set. There is one more data set related to diabetics. Is it not? But let us try to see if I click on this, something happens or not. What is IRIS, by the way? Iris is a flower. Iris is a flower. It is like gulabacha fool or some fool. So it is a iris is a fool. Iris is a flower. So, but there are three types of iris flowers. There are three types of iris flowers. I just clicked on that. Nothing happened. So let me check. Okay, something is happening. Fantastic. So now you look at this. I clicked on what? I clicked on iris. When I clicked on iris, iris is a data set. Iris is a data set. It gives information of the data of iris flower. Iris is a flower. So this iris flower, how much data is available to me? 150 instances. 150 instances means 150 rows. 150 rows of information. What are the attributes? 5 attributes are there. What are they? Sepal length, sepal width, petal length, petal width, and class. Okay. So this is a supervised learning algorithm we are speaking about, at least for today's context, and we have to predict the class. Okay, we have to predict the class. So this is a class level. Means what? The problem statement is, okay, there are 3 types of iris flowers. There are 3 types of iris flowers. What is available to us? Iris data set is available to us. What attributes are available? The sepal length, the sepal width, the petal length, and the petal width are available. Using this, you may be having a model. So that model you may be using, and that model you may be using. Suppose new data comes, somebody comes to you and बोलता भाई ये आयरिस का डाटा है, ये कौन सा आयरिस का फ्लावर है आइडेंटिफाई करके दो. दैट्स फाइन. आपने अपना विका ओपन किया, आपने अपना मॉडल जो आपने बनाया था, ट्रेन किया था, वो मॉडल ओपन किया और वो डाटा उसमें ऐड कर दिया और उसको रन किया. व्हेन यू रन दैट, द रिजल्ट शुड बी प्रेडिक्शन, दैट क्लास प्रेडिक्शन. क्लास प्रेडिक्शन मतलब ये आयरिस सेंटोसा फ्लावर है, या आयरिस वर्सिकलर फ्लावर है, या आयरिस वर्जिनिका फ्लावर है. So these are the three types of iris flower. These are the three types of iris flower. यहाँ देखिए हर एक को अलग अलग कलर दिया गया है. Is it not? This is iris centosa, blue color, iris versicolor, red color, and this is iris virginica, some color. I don't know how to tell that. Now, how many attributes are visible? 5 attributes are visible. So here we have three distinct. Let us try to click on this sepal length. I clicked on sepal length. What happened? At the right down side, I see something. These are the 3 different colors, means 3 different flowers, but they are overlapping. They are overlapping means some redundancy is there, some mixture is there. It means the algorithm which we are going to use for prediction says that it cannot use sepal length for classification, for identification. So because there is overlapping. So let us see its range also. Minimum starts with 4.3, maximum 7.9. Okay. If it is saying no to sepal length, I'll go to sepal width. Again, lot of overlapping. So it means the algorithm cannot use this attribute also. So you have to basically data mining algorithm. What is its expectation? Is you have to identify the best attribute which will be used for classification. So now we are saying that there is a lot of overlapping for sepal width also. Let us go for petal length. So in petal length, at least one flower does not have any overlapping, does not have not even one instance. So let us go for petal width. Even petal width also, it has overlap, maybe one instance it has overlap. Is it not? So this is how you are going to identify, at least visually directly seeing. The model actually does this. We don't do, but it is, for us it is visually possible to identify. So I can use petal length or petal width, something like that. I'll click on this choose. And I'll click on this filter just to give you a feel of. Then I'll click on this supervise. Then I'll click on this instance. Then I'll click on this resample. So I have clicked here one resample technique. So I can use something called as like this. I'm just trying to show you what happens at different places. So let us look at this classify. Okay, I'll try to choose here something. Okay, what is it? Is different classification algorithm. You can choose bias, or you can choose decision tables. Okay, I may be choosing trees. So decision trees, random forest. So what I'll select is, I'll select, let us say J48. Do you know J48? Data mining students who studied data mining subject, J48, you may be having decision trees algorithms, various decision trees algorithm. One of them is C45, is it not? So the same one, this J48 is the same one. J48 is the same one. So I'll try to go to few of the screenshots which I had taken to discuss this again. Okay, Explorer, Knowledge Flow and Workbench, similar things. Okay, extension of Weka files. I'm going fast because we are repeating here. Extension of Weka files .arff. What kind of data? Having .csv. Source file, Weka source file, coding in Java. Students can do projects. We had seen one data set. Which data set? Iris data set. How many types of iris flowers are there? 3. How many attributes are there? 4 plus 1 class attribute. Okay. This is used for what? to distinguish which type of flower it is. Are you getting the problem statement? The problem statement is you have your Weka tool, you have your iris dataset, you have the training model, you have developed a model to identify which kind of flower is there. So some new person comes to your lab and he says that ये देखो मैंने नया डाटा लेके आया, ये डाटा आइरिस का डाटा है, आप मेरे को बताओ आपका वेका टूल यूज कर सकते हैं, ये आइरिस का कौन से टाइप का फ्लावर है, आइरिस सेंटोसा है कि आइरिस वर्निकलर है कि आइरिस वो जो तीनों तीसरा वाला. दिस इज प्रॉब्लम स्टेटमेंट. सो जब आप क्लासिफिकेशन करते हैं तो क्लास लेवल जो है, क्लास लेवल शुड बी द लास्ट आइटम इन द डाटा सेट. What else we had seen? Sepal length and sepal width cannot be used to distinguish the iris flower. So what can be used? Petal length and petal width can be used to distinguish, and it is useful for the algorithms. Okay. So the algorithms in the Weka tool, will identify the useful attributes. Though we use our naked eyes, अपने आंखों से हमने बोला है कि ये petal length use कर सकते, क्योंकि वहां पे visualization था, मगर उसकी जरूरत नहीं है. Automatically algorithms identify करते कि कौन सा एट्रीब्यूट यूजफुल है क्लासिफिकेशन के लिए. अब ये किस लिए यूजफुल एट्रीब्यूट आइडेंटिफाई करना पड़ता? व्हाई वी वांट टू आइडेंटिफाई द यूजफुल एट्रीब्यूट? बिकॉज वी वांट द अदरवाइज द algorithm gets confused. There are redundant attributes and so on. Okay, this you had seen. We are referring the C drive program files Weka 3.84. In that the data set data, and from that data set iris we had seen. A scene here which attribute is selected here? Class. So separation of these three flowers. What are the three flowers? Centosa, versicolor, virginica, and so on. Okay. So pre-processing filters, is it not? Class value is to be identified. Machine learning algorithm should identify the class value. When it identifies the class value means कौन से type का flower है. So the structure, the output depends on the algorithm. You have selected tree, then the output will be tree. You have selected some statistical measures, the output will be in the form of statistics or mathematical functions and so on. Okay. So देखिए sepal length में overlapping है, petal width में यहाँ तो overlapping नहीं है, petal अच्छा लेंथ था, पेटल विड्थ में यहाँ तो ओवरलैपिंग नहीं है. Now what this screenshot is showing you is you have something called as an algorithm we had selected called as C4.5 decision tree algorithm. So the output will be in the form of tree, is it not? So what you are seeing here, I am selecting my data. Which data I have to select? Iris. I have to select the iris data. So what you are seeing here, you are seeing the filters. You are seeing the filters here. What filter I had selected while discussion? Resample filter I had selected during discussion. Okay. These are again the classification algorithms, and I had selected J48, something like that. So here output will be in which form? The output will be in plain text form. That's what I want to convey. So this is, I had some output in the form of here. The model is generated, see here, and the classification is done. The classification is done. And you see here this matrix here. Na? So this matrix, Iris Sentosa, all the 50 instances, correct. Iris versicolor, all the 50 instances, correct. Iris virginica, 49 instances, correct. One confusion is there. So this diagonal matrix is important. This diagonal matrix is important. Rest of the values are visible here. Okay. So what I did is I developed a model. When I develop the model, I'll save the model. And whenever new data comes, I have to load that model and I have to execute that. So here again, when I'm selected the data, I have to, this type of tab comes, you ensure that this class is visible here always. Okay. So what I did, I finished my discussion of initiating Weka as a tool, but can you finish the entire thing for me? For example, I explored that Iris data set and I said the problem statement is identify which type of flower it is. See, remember there are 3 steps here. The first step is pre-processing, but that keeping apart that also, the first step is training, then second step is testing, the third step is predicting. So training, testing, and predicting. So your data set has to be taken accordingly. Your data has to be taken accordingly. And your data will be in which form? Your data will be in the form of dot CSV. Data will be in the form of dot CSV form. Okay. So your data set is there. So your data set has to be divided into two parts. Your data set has to be divided into two parts, the training data and the testing data. So how much should be the percentage? 2/3 for training and 1/3 for testing. 2/3 for training and 1/3 for testing. So try to finish that. If you're facing any difficulty, always your manual is there. If you're facing any difficulty, you have other resources on the net. You can Google them and try to finish at least that one prediction problem of identifying the iris kind of flower. So what is in it for me? Why I should do it after this session? Okay, I'll give you something. If you do this and mail me, the first two participants who will be finishing this and sending me at a later stage, maybe today evening, maybe tomorrow morning. So I'll be sending you the copy of my book, which I am releasing in another 8 to 10 days on Amazon Kindle. So the first two participants will be getting this book. The first two participants will be getting my book, whosoever finishes this assignment. Whosoever finishes this assignment. So guys, what we learned till now, the first case study was rainfall prediction. The second case study was few machine learning concepts, data mining concepts, along with the way exploring the Weka tool. Rest remains the third case study. We'll try to go to that. Okay. Just take some seconds to look at this. Sorry. By the way, it is not cough. Okay, what you're seeing here is you're seeing some data. And I say this is a data set. Data sets usually are huge, but I just taken 10 instances, 10 rows of data. And even among many attributes, there may be 21, 24 attributes, but I have taken here 9 attributes. Attribute number 1, attribute number 2, attribute number 3, and there is a class level. I'll try to connect with this. I'll say this class level is salary. Salary is less than 50,000, less than equal to 50,000, so on. I'll try to see this data. 8, attribute 8. What it is saying? Whether you are a male or a female, whether you are white or other, your marriage status, married or not married or divorced or married with spouse, and so on. What did it say here? Your education, bachelor's or 10th, and so on. These are few numbers, maybe something, this may be a social security. I don't remember these 3 attributes, but these are numbers. So what kind of data you are seeing here? Which one is a categorical data? I can say this male, female is a categorical data. And white, others are categorical data. This can also be categorical data. So which one is the continuous data? I can say this one is the continuous data. Is it not? What are the columns? A1, A2, A4. So A1, A2 and A4. The data type is continuous data. The data type is continuous data. There may be something called a discrete data. There may be something called a discrete data, continuous data, ordinal data. So what we will do with this data is, we'll be discretizing this data. We'll be discretizing this data means everything will be converted into numbers here. Everything will be converted into numbers by using some assumptions. So how many data are there? 10 rows. How many attributes? 9 attributes. What is unique about this A1, A2 and A4? A1, A2, A4 are continuous. A1, A2 and A4 are continuous. So some data like education, whether it is 10th pass, whether it is bachelor, whether it is HS graduate, 12th and so on, I can give some numbers to them, like 10th I can give 2, bachelor's I can give 1, HS grade I can give 5, and 12th I can give 6 and so on. Similarly, male and female data can be converted to 1 and 2. 8, whatever data is available in 8, that male female can be converted into 1 and 2. So like this, except A1, A2 and A4. Except A1, A2 and A4, I have converted everything into numbers. I have converted everything into numbers, even the class level, But remember, whenever the data is given for clustering, you are giving your data without the class level. You are giving, because that's what is to be predicted. That's what is to be predicted. Fine. Now, what is available in A1, A2 and A4? Let us look at this. A1 consists of 25, 18, 25, 36. A2 consists of these numbers. A4 consists of these numbers and so on. So at least let us look at what is the smallest number in A1. I see the smallest number in A1 is 18. What is the biggest number in A1? 50, 52. Hopefully it is 52. So the biggest number in A1 is 52. So for A1, A2 and A4, I want to convert A1, A2 and A4 into like this only. So what I am doing, I'll be in A1, the smallest number is 18. The biggest number is 58. I am finding the difference between them. So 52 minus 18 is 34. Okay. And I am dividing this 34 by 3, because the value of k I am assuming as 3. Is it not? So now what I am doing is, if the data ranges from 18 to 29.3, how I came to 29.3? 18 plus 11.3, then 29.3 to 40.6. So 1 will be allocated to that, 2 will be allocated to that, 3 will be allocated to that. So like this for A2 and A4 also, 1, 2 and 3, 1, 2 and 3. So remember what we are trying to do. For A1, A2, A4, we are trying to convert that into numbers like this only. We are following the discretization process. So now you see my data. How many data samples are there? 10. So everything is discretized now. Everything is discretized, including A1, A2 and A4. After that, what I'm going to do is I'm going to form the subsets of this data sample. I'm going to form the subset of this data sample. So for subset formation, I am using Euclidean distance. And the value of number of neighbors I am taking as 3. The value of number of neighbors I am taking as 3. Don't get confused, students. It is nothing. So D1 is there. D1 has this data. Is it not? 1, 2, 1, 3. So you have to apply this formula, square root of this. So just remember Euclidean distance formula. You can Google or you will refer your Hawang book, data mining book, and look at the Euclidean distance formula, which is a distance measure. So D1 itself, distance D1, I know that it is coming to 0. But distance between D1 and D2 will be, so 1 minus 1, 2 minus 1, 1 minus 2, like that, and applying this formula. And you are getting these Euclidean distances. So for D1 till D10, D10. So now among these, D1, D3 and D8, D8 are brought into one group, Why D1, D3 and D8 are brought into one group? Look at the distance. D1 has the minimum distance 0. D3 has the next minimum distance, and D8 has the next minimum distance, which is again 0. Is it not? So D1, D3, D8 are formed into one group. Now this is the first iteration. Similarly, what we have done here, we have found out the distance of D1 with itself, D1 with D2, D1 with all. So now D1 is over, D3 is taken out, D8 is taken out. What remains is this. So now we will be finding out the distance of D2 with itself and then rest of them. So like this, we go on repeating for all of them. So I have ultimately come to 4 subsets, because 3 subsets. Subset number 1 has D1, D3, D8. Subset number 2 has D1, D2, D4, D5. Subset number 3 has D6, D7, D10, and subset number 4 has D9. Now, till this, we have done the first is discretization of the data. After discretization of the data, using Euclidean distance, we have formed the subsets. And we have 4 subset here, and each subset has this data samples. Okay. Now, what we are going to do is we are going to apply a genetic algorithm. For genetic algorithm, first thing is we have to have a chromosome representation. Here, the chromosome representation is for that we are taking 4 chromosomes in population, and the dimension size is n plus k. Where n is the number of attributes. How many attributes are there? 9. How many number of structures are there? 4. So 9 plus 4 is 13. So you can see 1, 2, 3, 4 like that till 13. So this is 9, which is in different color. This is 4, which is in different color. So what are these 4 chromosomes? Chromosome number 1, chromosome number 2, chromosome number 3, chromosome number 4. So these are again, how it has come like this? Nothing. It is just randomly written zeros and ones. And this is a binary matrix. This is 4 by 9 matrix, is it? No. Now what we are doing is, you have 2 parts in this, green wala part and this red wala part. Okay, so what the green wala part indicates is, I'll try to show you here. The green wala part will show whether the corresponding attributes are needed for clustering or not. 1 means needed, 0 means not needed, 0 not needed, 1 needed. So attribute number 1, attribute number 2, attribute number 9. Like this is needed, not needed, first thing. Second thing is regarding this red color wala. So what they do, okay, the corresponding subset belongs to cluster number 1 or cluster number 2. So that is indicated by that. Okay. So like this, I have my data here. How it has come is, for example, let us take C1. C1 is this chromosome number 1. Look at the data which we put randomly zeros and ones. Okay. What it says, attribute number A1 has value 1. Attribute number A4 has value 1. Okay. Attribute number A8 has value 1. Okay. So these are the attributes which are required for clustering. And S1 and S3. This is subset number 1, subset 2, subset 3, subset 4. So S1 and S3 will go to cluster number 1. S2 and S4, though it is written here S3, it is S2 and S4 will go to cluster number 2. Hopefully you could relate, though I am going fast here. Okay. So ultimately your data will be looking like this. Whether it is cluster number 1 or cluster number 2. Subset number 1, do you remember what subset number 1 consisted of? Here, D1, D3 and D8. Subset number 4, it had only D9. Subset number 2, it has D2, D4 and D5. So like this, we are applying here genetic algorithm. Chromosome representation happen, then this data is generated. From this, fitness computation is done. So I'll be, as a hard stop, I'll be